Okay. So, on the introduction to the game. Now, the introduction is interesting because here's where you have to get a lot of world building and things such as that. Here's where you get the first introduction. You start seeing all these echoes, and echo and batch is just a continuous listing. It's just how you send messages to the terminal. It's like an IO stream or C out. That's what I'm thinking, or C error, or whatever you want in C++. So, or print in Python, print line, Julia, it's something like that. But yeah. My writing is a little bit inspired by Poe. I think Poe in the various the romantic to gothic American sort of period. I've always been fairly inspired by that in my writing, so that probably influenced this a lot. Before get onto it, you can probably already see there's probably a few spelling errors in here, or there is a few spelling errors in here. I know that for a fact. And that's because I wanted to check it at the end. I wanted to leave that to the end. I didn't want to go through all this proof check. And even though it could have just taken 2 seconds, and it really would have, I wanted to save that to the end. And since this game's never finished, those weren't ever fixed. So, you know how it is. The game is very dramatic. I can run it right now, actually. Let me see if I can... Yeah, I'm gonna have to... So if we... this up, G drive, cd dev, /other, /VariadicWarfare, and I run main.bat. If we run this here, a new game. And you see, that's what the padding does there, which I didn't even mention. So yeah, we can kind of go through it here if we want. And you see there's this sort of dramatic padding. You see it's just 10 echoes that I placed in there. It's just a dramatic for loop. Actually, it's just a loop. But it's just a dramatic go-to statement. Feel nothing. I feel nothing. Nothing but air. In fact, I don't feel my legs or my breath. In this immense, aching quiet, I don't feel my heart. So you get that very gothic sort of pattern to it, where you have the repetitive prose in a way, that slow. Sorry, and I haven't written in a long time, so it's very. This was probably one of my first real writing projects in a while, but because writing to me is, I haven't really written so strongly as this until recently, so my wording is very difficult to grasp. But yes, it's lumbering, that's a good word. So you get the slow, lumbering pattern of just repeating stanzas, things like that. Well, not stanzas, but, repeating foots, if you know what I mean. A rapid and frantic thought entered my mind with the initial inclinations of death. Every eye roll I would have was gone. Every corporeal bone or muscle twitch evaporated. This apprehension of me being in the lowly laps of purgatory or hell. I cannot sit here in the dark forever. I need not suffer here alive, but not yet dead. It was interrupted. And after this, you have the first instances of the computer, which of course we all know what the computer is going to sound like. Well, here it's supposed to be feminine, and in fact, when you meet the aliens, yes, you do get to talk to the aliens, despite the fact you can't hear. They use a translator and things like that. They connect directly to your head. But yes, after sitting in this terrifying tube or whatever you're in. They call it a resting carriage because that's where you are after they place you. They call it a resting carriage. Yes, so a ping shouted in my mind. You have stuff such as this. you have this terrifying emphasis of confusion at first, and really figuring out what is going on, because you don't know what happened. You're blind. You can't feel anything. You can't even feel your heart. You know, you're terrified. You know, this chapter 1 Black Matters thing. You know, you see the 00. I was thinking about putting in those zeros, some sort of binary code, but I would do that later and figure out what it is. It may have been like a password or something in the archives. So I'll keep mentioning those, but the voice, ever baffling, shouted a silence that ricocheted through my body. This voice, very soft and perfect, almost unnatural, more unusual than unnatural, did not repeat itself and left me to sob in my panic. The silence, yes. And you're just waiting, yes. A different voice, a softer timbre. So here's where we get to the actual aliens themselves and what they sound like, which is fairly interesting. Now, the idea I had was a sort of garbled translator, if you know what I'm talking about. Just this garbled translation of this sort of thick, spitty voice. And I think, I'm describing it right here. So, a different voice, a softer timbre, eschewed my ears. His English was bloated, having a thick, raspy wallop. Like a mid-air fish rotting before me, it reeked of a flightless bird flipping about. A flopping wave combined with the spit and strange noise covered any sort of repentance for this disgusting show of literacy. The maddening low tones only ignited this confused anger in me, which I could not express. And here's where you get to the intentional misspellings. To sort of emphasize, you know, the fantastic accents these aliens would obviously have. You know, here we go. And that's what I call the aliens, right there. Welcome. That's not how you do it. Welcome to the Machiavellian sensibilities that detach over skill we have allows. So, yeah, and that's essentially what it would sound like. You know, I have a few clips I've pulled up here to show, like, the influences behind that voice, but I think you honestly do, or you should, understand what I'm getting at with this. You know, it is this legion and skunk from the shadows. While using his translator, shedding blue at a case. It's very spitty, raspy, things like that. Although I do believe I made the trainer in particular, and this isn't the trainer, this is a different character, but the trainer in particular, he would use a more higher pitched voice that wasn't necessarily, you know, soft, low, and raspy, but more of just this annoying chihuahua. You know, like a little chihuahua. And I do specifically define it as this mutt, this alley mutt. You know, but that's in the future. You know, and this is what I'm explaining. You know, they would explain that they are born here. They are born on this ship. Our lifespan is short. Of insectoid. Your lifespan is long. You are a valuable soldier. You will fight for the Legion. And, you know, that's the entire purpose of the game. And then this is just the introduction. This is how you wake up. This is how the game starts. On this ship. Now, what do they mean by being born on the ship? You'd think they'd be born on a planet. Well, my idea is, if you know, again, huge inspiration, the Endless Space 2 franchise, but if you go to Endless Space 2, you have these temple-dwelling people, the Crusaders, that believe it's their duty to spread the crusade in arc ships. So, and that's sort of the idea of what I'm getting at. The eggs would all be from their founders, and they'd all be clones. That's the idea I had behind this species. they no longer reproduce. They just have clones and clones of clones of eggs. And the parents just choose which eggs they want. I guess. I haven't decided exactly how that works, but yeah. And now that I think about it, when they respect family and whatnot, it is a little weird that they have the whole noble generation thing that I mentioned. That is a sort of incongruity, and that I personally didn't really think about. But I guess adoption is a thing in this, if the eggs are all cloned. But if the eggs are all cloned, I guess adoption is a thing in this. But maybe there's a sort of class to it, where only a certain hierarchy really knows that they're being adopted, and maybe, you know, these insects just believe they're all related. Well, they are all related, they're all clones, but they believe they're all in a family. Maybe they just do it for sanity's sake. I don't know, because think about it, if we were all cloned, it's plausible humanity could go insane. You know, because we have always been based in this hierarchical family structure. You know, we could go absolutely insane. So it's, you know. And yeah, it is a feminine computer, because they specifically say it should be your sister. Perhaps your sister. Yeah, it's like that. Oh yeah, the Dune. I also kind of like imagine the what in Dune? What's the race that isn't human in Dune? That's what I'm thinking of. That are on the planet Dune. That's what I'm thinking of. That kind of inspired it a little bit. You know, I was kind of thinking about those. But you get this introduction. You're trying to figure out how things are going. You're trying to figure out where things are going. And I spent a few hours writing this. So, you know, you're trying to figure out how this works. And you're going to keep going. And you slowly start to realize you have to listen to this computer. Embracing the sorrowful confusion, I imagined I had a leg and swung it. Embracing the inner child and fear, I somewhat imagined myself as a toddler, tottering on my new carriage. An imaginary set of hips. Taking a breath, my sister spoke to me. And yeah, he calls it his sister. You are facing a resting carriage. 4 meters. So here I'm thinking GLaDOS. You know, you can't play Portal. I'm thinking GLaDOS. I'm thinking, you know, the Riftborn from Endless Space 2. I'm thinking characters like that. That's exactly what I'm thinking of. This sort of very Cortana, Siri, Alexa, you know, all those AI assistants. That's what I'm thinking with this. And that obviously makes sense. And yeah, that's really it. I guess I could show the voice clips I had here. Ah. Okay, so what actually happened here? Yeah, see, this is going to stage 1, and what happened was, I was still working on stage 1, and there was a bunch of stupid stuff I was purposely doing to test things and play with it a little. This obviously wouldn't be in the final game. I just kept pressing enter habitually. And before anyone notes it, yes, I do realize I can use the parentheses. I didn't realize at the time, but I do know now that you can use a parentheses to finish this. So if I was to open the command prompt again, and I was to say echo, wait a minute. There's some way to do it in the command prompt. I forgot. I was doing it in the command prompt prior, but yes, I do realize you can use parentheses there. I just There is a way to do it. That's for sure. But you can look at all the code here. And yeah, if I just look at the inspiration for the voices, you know, obviously these will be the aliens. Sort of a mix of this. You know, with this. With, obviously, this.
Nothing has changed. Consume or be consumed.
You know, combined with this sort of. Yeah, just combine it with that, and please be quiet, please be quiet. Okay. So yeah, just be combined with that. I think that really sums up everything I had to say. You know, that's about it, really. And there's not much to it. Of course, I don't have the image up here. I'm woefully unprepared, but if you wish to pay attention to my social medias, keep up with me. I have social medias in the description. There's Discord, I have Twitter, Patreon, Ko-Fi if you want to donate. Of course, there's also my GitHub there. It's in the description. All for you. So, have a good day.